you're going to be engaged more. So I think that's a big part of why it's not going to go away, is it's helping people get into the sport. That's how I taught my business partner to fly fish. He now uses a Tenkara rod. He uses his rod and reel and casts and does all that real effectively, but it was a way to help teach him. It's also how I teach my kids how to, fish, so that I'm capturing their engagement with the fishing versus being frustrated with all the other stuff.
That was Brandon Moon sharing one of their products in a very diverse lineup. Family, friends, and Furled leaders today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how you doing today? Thanks for stopping by the show. We always have a giveaway going on this year. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/giveaway and sign up right now and win that special giveaway. This episode is presented by Stonefly Nets, putting quality before quantity with their handcrafted custom wood landing nets. When Ethan designs your net, it's his hope and goal to help you form long-lasting memories for years to come. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/stonefly to get your custom net right now. STONEFLY to get started right now. Reyr gear makes truly unique and innovative fishing gear to help you travel lighter, faster, and fish more. This telescoping fly rod doesn't need guides and packs up small enough to fit in the pocket of your backpack. This is likely the most unique rod you've seen this year, so you're going to have to check it out for yourself. You can head over to reyrgear.com right now to check it out. That's Reyr, R-E-Y-R, gear.com. Brandon Moon shares his super passionate story of fly fishing and family and his connection to the history around fly fishing and fishing. We find out about some of the benefits of the Furled leader, his take on some of the new fiberglass rods that are out there and in their line, and his fascination with soft hackles. So without further ado, here is Brandon Moon from moonlitflyfishing.com. How's it going, Brandon?
Doing great, Dave. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for putting this together this morning. We connected recently at the show, at the Denver show, chatted there a little bit, and you surprised me with a couple of things I didn't know you had going. So you got a bunch of things going here, like rods, you got some Furled leaders, and a bunch of things we're going to dig into today. But before we get into all that and Moonlit Fly Fishing, take us all the way back. Let's start at the fly fishing. How did you first get into fly fishing?
Well, my grandpa Auger always fly fished as I was growing up as a kid, and I always watched him do it and tie flies. So that kind of sparked my interest. I kind of got into it a little bit in high school and then migrated away from it into sports. But when I married my wife, my father-in-law gifted me a fly rod, and it just all shifted from sports to fly fishing at that point.
Oh, wow. And how old were you when it shifted?
When I shifted back into fly fishing, I was 21. So that's 23 years ago.
There you go, 23 years. So when did the fly fishing kind of moonlit and the business stuff or any of that, when did that start?
Well, I had a friend that introduced me to the concept of Furled leaders, I don't know, probably 2011. And I fished them for, a couple years. And I was like, you know what, I want to learn how to make these and maybe sell them to people. I really, really like how they fish. And so I bought a book that taught me how to make Furled leaders, found a forum where I could find mentors to teach me different techniques and improve. And by 2014, I had my website up and running.
Oh, yeah. 2014. That's perfect. So the forum, what was the forum? Is that still around?
Yeah, I think as far as I know, I think it's called Furled Leaders Pro Boards, I believe is what it is. It's been a long time since I've been on there. I just don't have a lot of time to get on and do that anymore.
Sure.
And most of my mentors, they were a little older gentlemen. Back then, the gentleman was in his 90s that I was touching base with and getting a lot of stuff from.
Yeah, gotcha. Talk about the furled leaders, because that's something that I think some people won't quite know. Describe, what is a furled leader?
So furled leaders actually have deep-rooted history in fly fishing, and they've been around over 200 years. They were originally made out of horsehair. Now we have all kinds of synthetic materials that we can use to make them. They're made like a fine tapered rope. So if you think of a rope, you're thinking of something that's really strong and durable, really counter to what you really think of when you think of a tapered leader. Being that they're constructed with, most of them are constructed with, a polyester thread or a mono fishing line. The polyester thread is going to reduce any kind of memory that you have. So with a thread leader, you're going to have almost zero memory. So you get better turnover because it's going to hold loops and lay out straight. So you get better turnover, more durability. Most people get a good season or more out of a furled leader. And then, better drifts and control of your fly.
Oh, wow. And so the furled leaders, you don't see as much, I guess these aren't out there as much anymore. What's happened over the years? Why from the furled leaders, if you go back in the day, if you look at the history of it, what happened where they did they fall out of popularity, or what's the story there?
That I can't really give a direct answer as, an informed answer, I guess you'd say. But my best guess would be is people got skittish of having something that looked, thicker diameter, wasn't clear, just that's the most common question I get when I'm asked about the furled leaders is that color's going to spook the fish. And, for us, we make ours out of, really neutral colors. So, to try and reduce that. But the biggest thing that spooks fish is going to be presentation and drift. So if you're increasing and having better presentation and better drifts, you're spooking the fish less than you do with a tapered leader. They see things floating down the river all the time.
Yeah, right. So and are you also on the end of this? Walk us through how that looks like. So if you have, let's take, say we're trout fishing. We've got a normal, kind of a 9-foot, whatever, 5-weight setup. And you had, I guess, say a weight forward line. Walk us through setting up the leader, this whole thing, and the tippet and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the furled leader is going to attach to your fly line with a loop to loop connection. It's really, really simple, just like your loop connections with tapered leader. You're going to slide that on, and then you're going to attach anywhere from 18 inches to 5 or 6 feet of tippet on the end of that leader. Most leaders, people want their leaders with a tippet ring or a micro swivel. And then you have the option for a short loop to do a loop to loop connection with your tippet. But, most people like the convenience of just tying a clinch knot, Davy knot, Orvis knot, whatever knot they're tying to their fly. They like to tie it to their leader. It's just really quick and easy for changing.
Gotcha. So basically, like you said, the advantage is the presentation is a little bit different, but some people might think that it's kind of too big or bulky. How would it compare to, say, like the Euro nymph kind of craze where people are going smaller, lighter, or, thinner? So it's not as affected as much by other variables. What's your take there? Is this just for a certain, my question, I guess, would be, is this for a certain situation where, maybe you wouldn't necessarily use this Euro nymphing, but you would use it for, say, swinging flies?
So when it comes to Euro nymphing, I don't have it on the market, but I have made and designed lines for some people. Really haven't put it on the market just because I'm having to increase production on my other leaders. And we also manufacture the Tenkara lines for DragonTail Tenkara. And productions, you got to increase production to keep up with those. I got to increase more and hire more people, and I just haven't had a chance to do that. But I can make the Euro leaders up to 20 feet. So they're not as light. They're designed a little bit differently, but they do cast a little bit easier than some of these other lines. So, it really comes down to personal preference on that with somebody.
Gotcha.
But those those lines for Euro nymphing are really nice. They've got them designed down really nice. They are going to create less sag because with a furled leader in that length, you're going to have some sag, but it can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. Okay. So if somebody wanted to learn more, we're just touching the surface here on this, but more about the furled leaders, where would you send them?
I'd just send them to our website. We've got a blog post on there about our furled leaders and how to choose the furled leader that's right for you. We've also got a YouTube video that talks about all that for us too.
Nice. Well, I think what I'm going to have to do, because I'm inexperienced here, obviously, I think I'm going to have to hit you up and test some out, because it's interesting because, you hear about them, but, you're like, well, how is this different? Or I'm just trying to clarify a little bit there. It sounds like there are some advantages for sure of the leaders, but maybe there's some disadvantages depending on what you're doing, right? You might not, this might not be the perfect leader setup for every situation. Would you say that's a valid statement?
I fish furled leaders exclusively. I won't ever put a tapered leader on. So.
Oh, really? So you could fish these for anything?
Yeah. Granted, some of the like tarpon and stuff's going to require something a little bit stronger, a little bit special hardware or something like that, right? But it can be made, and I make them. I don't touch anything else, but really the biggest thing is confidence. If somebody has more confidence with something else, that's really what I say to use. We do make and manufacture regular tapered mono leaders, 9-foot mono leaders with a welded loop as well, because not everybody wants a furled leader.
Exactly. Who else is there? Are there other companies out there doing the furled leaders?
There are some other companies. Since you asked, I just want to pay my respects to a friend of mine. His name's Mike Moline. He owns Streamside Furled Leaders. He passed away this last holiday season, so we'll just kind of pay a little respect to him. He was a good friend of mine. There's also a company, Blue Sky's pretty big. Like they sell in like Cabela's, and then Feathercraft sells some furled leaders.
Oh, okay.
You've got Appalachian furled leaders and cutthroat furled leaders, who was my biggest competition when I first got started.
Oh, gotcha. That's what I love about this, because the fly fishing niche is such a cool, specialized, right? It's so specialized, and literally you can take the leaders or you can take rods. I mean, right. There's probably, you can dig down as deep as you want onto any topic. And so that's really cool. Well, I'll leave it at that for now. And I did want to switch and talk a little about fiberglass rods, because at the show we talked about what you had going there, and you've got some good movement there. What's your take? We did a fiberglass rod piece a while back, but give us a little update on fiberglass rods. Where are they at? Is this something where a new person comes in, or somebody who, like anybody, could be good grabbing a fiberglass rod now?
So fiberglass has changed a lot over the years. Now you've got this S Glass and S Glass 2, which are lighter, and they're not going to be quite as, the word I'll use is whippy. The tip recovery recovers really well and fast. They're not as heavy in your arm. The swing weight's better. In regards to beginners versus, experienced anglers, I love fiberglass, because fiberglass, it can be forgiving at times, but it also forces me to correct any inefficiencies or deficiencies I have in my casting stroke, because I can feel everything.
All right.
The problem with a fast action carbon fiber or graphite rod, if you want to call it that, is you don't feel those deficiencies in your cast, and because you're not really feeling the rod. And so a glass rod's great for anyone of all ages, especially if you're first learning and you really want to learn the rhythm, how to find the rhythm of your rod to improve your casting accuracy, distance, the whole 9 yards. You're going to feel it with a glass rod versus graphite.
That's it. So it sounds like the graphite, like everybody should probably have a glass rod in their quiver now. It sounds like that's a good thing, especially if maybe you're struggling with the graphite rod casting.
Yeah. Casting's, a big part of fly fishing, right? And if you can't get in rhythm with your partner, which is your rod, it's kind of like watching two people try and do the waltz or something, and they're just out of sync. And so if you can help someone fine tune that rhythm, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's good. So basically, and let's take it to the glass. Let's think of the soft tackle, because I know you're interested. You love the soft tackles. Let's say we're putting together a setup to go out and swing some soft tackles for trout. And this is kind of like normal size trout. What would be a good setup to use? Are we talking, is this like your 9-foot 5-weight again, or is that different when you're looking at glass?
You know, if I was going to fish, like I live here on the Henry's Fork or the South Fork of the Snake River, kind of in God's country over here.
Yeah. Let's do the South Fork. Let's think of the South Fork of the Snake, since we've already talked quite a bit about the Henry's Fork.
So the South Fork of the Snake, I'm going to take my 5-weight more often than not. If I'm going to throw some bigger streamers or, something like that, I will switch over to a 6-weight, would be more accommodating for that. So the 5-weight glass can handle, ours can handle the small streamers, but, why not use the tool that's going to perform best for that situation if you can? Right. If I had to pick one, I'd pick the 5-weight. But if I could take two, I'd take the 2.
Take the 2. And do you need, could somebody just literally go out and say, you know what, I don't even need a graphite rod. I just want to use fiberglass if it fits me well. Or, is that a good route to go? Just say, I'm going to fish fiberglass for everything.
There are people that do that for sure. Rods are just a personal preference. You find a rod that matches your casting stroke and your style, and that's all you need to do, whether it's, the graphite or glass. But if you want to do just glass, you can. And there are different actions within the fiberglass world too. It's not just one kind of action.
Yeah, exactly. Now tell me, I don't even know this exactly, on Moonlit. Are you guys, do you have like the brick and mortar shop in where you're at?
We have people will come in, and if you get on, you can find our address, and people come in, they stop in and come check us out. We're more of a warehouse because we do more online, sales, and we try and push our local people in our local town to the fly shop there to, support them because they sell our gear. But we do have people come in on occasion.
Gotcha. Who is the local fly shop there?
The local fly shop is called Snake River Fly. They're in Pocatello, Idaho. So it's a great shop.
That's awesome. Yeah, Snake River Fly. Yeah, definitely heard of them. So yeah, I was just kind of getting to the point of, if somebody wants to come in, like everybody should do, cast the rods. They probably be easier going to the Snake River Fly, or that might be the easier thing to do. Or they could stop by your place if they give a call and cast some of your stuff.
Yeah, I'd actually recommend they come stop by our place. We've got a nice place out back that's got grass and everything where we can, really, really take them out and let them cast whatever rods they want.
That's awesome. Okay. And the Snake River is a pretty, obviously, for those that haven't been there, it's an amazing area, right? You got, I'm not sure, how far are you guys from like the Hells Canyon area?
That's on the other side of the state. We're on the eastern side. That's on the western side. So it's it's a couple hours.
Yeah, it's a couple hours. Yeah, you're over there. Okay.
So you've got a lot of different opportunities within this valley. You've got the Henry's Fork, you've got the South Fork, and then you got the main stem of the Snake below American Falls Reservoir, and that's a top 10 smallmouth bass fishery.
Oh, wow. That's it. So you guys have, and we haven't done, that's the cool thing about this. We haven't done a ton of, just looking at just more like Idaho or whatever. Obviously it's all connected, but you guys, you got a lot of opportunities there. You got smallmouth bass, you got trout, you got, in good years, you'd have some steelhead. What other species are you guys targeting out there?
Obviously our native cutthroat are here. We've actually got a ton of brook trout in some of these, small streams up here, rainbows, browns. We've got some tigers lurking around. tiger trout. And then there is some place, Merriam Lake is an alpine lake that does have tiger muskie in it that they've planted.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of an interesting thing. I've never been there. It's kind of on my list. I'm like, man, I should take my 2-3 weight up there and see if I can get into one of these alpine tiger muskie. We've got grayling. There's some golden trout around here. So
a nice mixture, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and you've got
probably some brook trout in there too somewhere.
Oh yeah. So we got everything you can look for.
LakeLady Rods builds distinctive custom rods, each created one at a time to the exact specifications for you. LakeLady only uses world-class, top-of-the-line products and components, and I can definitely attest to this with my unique fine-tuned specimen that Chris built for me. From the custom-built 24-piece Portuguese cork handle, the gunmetal reel seat, this thing is super nice and clean, and Chris is going to make your rod just as unique. And definitely don't want to forget about the Jungle Cock inline rod markers that highlight the creative touch. The rod I've been using is a 9-foot 4-weight, but Chris can custom build anything to suit your needs. LakeLady also restores and builds bamboo rods from scratch, and the story of passion continues. I want to connect you to the LakeLady Passion and Promise right now. You get the most unique custom rod you have seen this year. Check out Chris, LakeLady Rods. That's wetflyswing.com/LakeLady, LakeLady. You support this podcast by clicking over to check out LakeLady now. Well, let's talk about soft hackle. So I know you've got a kind of a fascination, or you're interested in soft. Talk about that. Where are you fishing soft hackles? Is that something where you're doing that like most of the time for trout, or what are you doing there?
To be honest, I don't. All my nymphs are tied as a soft hackle, and then so I'm fishing a soft hackle probably 90% of the time, unless I'm fishing, a sculpin or a streamer pattern. But I fish it on all the big rivers, the small streams. I'm more of a small stream person, just because there is so much pressure on the Henry's Fork and the South Fork.
Yeah,
I've got so many tributaries and small streams within an hour's drive of my house. I love it because I don't have to see a ton of people. I get the, peace and quiet, the ability to connect within myself, connect with, the environment around me, which is really what fly fishing is about. To me, it's less about catching the fish and more about connecting to my surroundings.
That's it. So you're getting out there, you're hiking, you're getting out to remote where you're not seeing anybody. And small, you're fishing for like west slope cutties in these small streams?
Most of the cutthroat in the streams that I fish are the Snake River cutthroat.
Oh, yeah, cool.
One of my favorite places, my mom is from Preston, Idaho, and my business partner's dad is my mom's cousin, and he's from Preston. So there's a little stream called Cub River down there outside of Preston that has Bonneville cutthroat. And I love to go chase those down there just because it connects me with my grandpa who's passed away, and just kind of, a part of me that I really like to hit on occasion, find myself. That's the place, if I'm really struggling, that's the place I go to really find myself.
That's amazing. So that is pretty powerful. You're connecting through your fishing, which, I mean, I think a lot of people have a similar thing, but you're actually connecting through a species of unique. And trout, I mean, there's a lot of different cutthroat species, but Bonneville is one that probably not a lot of people have the opportunity to fish for, right? What's the Bonneville? How's that differ from, say, any other cutthroat out there?
I wish I was more of a fish biologist.
More like just looking at it. Does it look kind of similar? How would you know it's a Bonneville versus, say, a West Slope or something?
The Bonnevilles that I've caught, they're a little bit darker gold color, smaller, a little bit smaller spots, not as big. Some of the Snake Rivers that we catch up here, they just, they're a little bit lighter gold color, but some really rich color to them. The Bonnevilles that I've caught, and this is just my experience, have had that darker gold, skin to them with small spots and, the rich, deep orange cut.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I'll put a link in the show notes with some photos. Maybe we can get a little series of cutthroat different species so we can look at the differences, because that is always interesting. You got Yellowstone cutties, you got all these. It's really cool and diverse, all these different subspecies, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Utah does their cut slam. Wyoming does one. I don't know why Idaho doesn't do something similar. We've got several different strains of cutthroat here, and they actually introduced south of Twin Falls somewhere. They planted the Lahotans in one of the lakes down there. So, I mean, as of right now, the biggest one of those that's caught is like 20 inches. But I imagine they'll get pretty big in that lake too.
Wow. Yeah, that's right. And all that stuff. So, okay. So we got a big chunk here. This is obviously, you're painting a picture of a cool place where I think, people are probably wanting to get out to. And that's cool thing about Idaho is it actually is in the middle. It's like, if you don't know much about Idaho, it's cool because it's not as busy as the other places, right? Like it's not like you're going up to Washington or some places in Oregon, but Idaho's still a pretty small state, right? As far as population.
Oh yeah. Like it's a big city here is like a small town in like Denver, Texas, California, Washington, I mean, we're talking like maybe 60,000 people. Boise's got quite a bit more than that.
Boise.
But you get outside of Boise and we're still small town.
Yeah, you're small town, and that's probably what you love about it. You mentioned your grandpa, and that was pretty powerful. You're talking about the connection to the Bonneville trout. Like if you think, obviously, I'm sure you probably learned a lot from him. But what's one thing you take away when you think about your grandpa and kind of that what he left you and kind of what you learned from him?
The biggest thing I learned from my grandpa was just how to love people. My grandpa was the strongest person I've ever known, but he had the biggest heart to take care of people. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Wow.
But my grandpa was a tinkerer. Like he invented things. He would manufacture his own fly tying vices. He would manufacture his own bobbins, for holding his thread. He just, all that stuff he just did. And he had a vision of trying to take it out on his own. So for me doing what I'm doing, it's kind of like fulfilling what my grandpa worked towards, but didn't quite come to fruition.
Wow.
So it's a way for me to continue his legacy for him.
That's really cool. So basically he never was really in the fly fishing industry, although he always had that as something like something he wanted to do, maybe get into.
Yeah. I talked to my uncle. I only have one uncle on that side. And, he's told me, that my grandpa tried really, really hard and it just never came to fruition. So like, this is just my way.
That's it. And you got the Moonlit, right? I mean, that's obviously that's playing on kind of your name as well as a little bit of everything, right? Is that kind of where that comes from?
Yeah. I did it with a play on my last name. I take a lot of pride in my heritage from both sides of my family. I just picked up as one of my cousins gifted me a bamboo fly rod that I never even knew my grandpa had. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
And he did that at my grandma's funeral last year. So like, that was really cool.
Wow. And this is, gosh, there's so many topics you're bringing up here, Brandon. I think, it's always tough for me because I want to dig into so many. You mentioned the vices, and I want to touch on that because my buddy, Tyler, a good friend of mine, he picked up one of your vices. I can't remember the exact model, but he was really loving it. Talk a little bit about that. Well, let's talk a little about the vices, like what you have, but you also have a bunch of stuff going. We're just hitting the surface, right? You have, just if you had to give somebody a nutshell of what you do there on top of what we talked about, what else is it? So go into vices and then go into all that.
So a lot of people may have seen that we've got the Nirvana Rotary Vise, and that's on pre-order. It'll be shipping in the next couple weeks by the end of this month. That's a really cool, full functioning rotary vise that comes in different colors to really add your artistic flair. And Fly tying's all about sharing your artistic expression, so that's pretty cool. We have our own lineup of barbless hooks. We are in the process of during this year, we're moving our regular Moonlit hooks over to our Moonlit Tenkara lineup of hooks that are coming out of Japan, out of one of the biggest hook manufacturers in the world over there. We just launched some seat covers, waterproof seat covers.
Oh, really?
That you can put in your car to keep
nice.
your car from getting damaged if you jump in with your waders to drive to a new place, or if you got dogs that come with you, you can put these down to protect your seats from getting wet and that wet dog smell.
Oh, wow. How do you do the seat covers? Because that seems like something that's like there's so many different models of seats. How do you know what I mean? Do you get like a universal thing, or how do you do that?
So the seat cover just really goes over the headrest and then blankets down over the rest of your seat.
Gotcha. So it's not a form fit. This is just something you use while you're on the river. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you take it off when you're not using it. It's not something that stays on.
Yeah.
And then with that, we brought in wader changing mats, so that, neoprene wading changer mats, you can change without standing on the ground and ruin your boots, or not your boots, your wader feet. The foots. We are bringing out new graphite rods in the Nirvana brand name. These are being manufactured in Korea, as well as a new lineup of fiberglass coming out of Korea. We've got the furled leaders, the tapered leaders. We also are now in the fly line manufacturing business and designing and manufacturing our own fly line. With Leland, we have our own reels because we purchased Leland Fly Fishing in April of 2021. Mm-hmm. We also own DragonTail Tenkara, which is one of the biggest Tenkara companies in the world.
Yeah, that's right. Talk about that Tenkara, because that's an interesting thing. It's, again, Tenkara, definitely some people love it, some people hate it, but talk about Tenkara, because it sounds like something that's around, that's sticking around. What's your take on Tenkara, and where do you think we're headed with that?
So Tenkara is an absolute beautiful tool to have in your arsenal. It's lightweight. It's got a short learning curve to get in and catch fish. So a lot of times people get out of the sport because they struggle at the beginning, because they're worried all about the mechanics. How do I mend the line? How do I do all this stuff? Instead of the short mechanics of how do I present this fly effectively? How do I control the drift and catch fish? If you can focus on those three main things at the beginning when you're first learning and take out the other stuff, you're going to be engaged more. So I think that's a big part of why it's not going to go away, is it's helping people get into the sport. That's how I taught my business partner to fly fish. He now uses a Tenkara rod. He uses his rod and reel and casts and does all that real effectively, but it was a way to help teach him. It's also how I teach my kids how to, fish, so that I'm capturing, their engagement with the fishing versus being frustrated with all the other stuff. Yeah. So, gotcha. But there's a lot more to it than, like, there is. People say, oh, well, you're not really casting. It's easier to learn how to cast, but you still can spend years working to perfect that cast and perfect manipulation. So just like anything, it can be super easy, but you can take it to a whole another level.
There you go. So that's, and like you're saying, for definitely somebody new to it, or kids, things like that, that's a really great tool. But also just having another quiver out there in your toolbox or whatever to be ready for, like, you're in a small, tiny stream and you just need a little whatever, try something new.
Yeah, I wouldn't limit it to small streams. We fish for 27-inch rainbow trout here on the Snake River with a Tenkara rod. So, you can, I wouldn't limit it to just that, but it is a great tool for that. A lot of people use it when they go backpacking because it's so light and compact. A lot of people use it when they go and get on a mountain bike because they can attach it to the bike really easy and not add a lot of bulk. So there's a lot of benefits to it in different ways that is more difficult with rod and reel.
So this is something where, that's one good thing where you could just take it and it's a little collapsible. You toss it in, and you could almost forget about it. So it's in your pack, and then it's like, okay, you just jump in somewhere, your mountain bike, and you're like, hey, there's a stream. Let's go fish that. I got everything right here.
Yeah, it's more portable. So, and the thing with us on Tenkara is we are the ones that are like, we're the innovators in that industry. We just came out with a fiberglass Tenkara rod this last year.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, wow. So a little more action, same thing, just more feel, more connection.
Yep. And then, we've got a new rod coming out this summer that collapses down to 17 inches and fishes 2 lengths. So like, we're always pushing the envelope to try and do different things.
That's great. Well, take it back to the soft hackle, because I want to kind of finish that up. So we talked at the start kind of fiberglass rods, and we're thinking, I guess, like a 9-foot, a 5-weight or 6-weight kind of similar would be a good fiberglass rod to get into if you're swinging. And you mentioned swinging some bigger stuff. Let's just say, we're swinging some bugs, right? I don't know. What would you say? What's the middle? You swing, it sounds like some big stuff. But what else are you doing with soft tackles? What would be your, like, if you're trying to match the hatch?
So, today, last night and this morning, I'm going to a Idaho desert spring creek to go fly fish when I get done with this. And I was tying, my favorite color is purple. I was tying a purple starling soft tackle, size 16. And some olive colored ones to match a blue wing hatch if we ran into a blue wing hatch. So, I'll match just changing body styles. The cool thing with soft tackles is you're not doing a whole ton to the body of your fly. Usually, they're a little more simple, but I like the history, like North Country spiders and stuff like that. And they're just super effective. I catch most of my fish on the trailing soft tackle when I fish a dry, and I drop a soft tackle behind it. Most of the fish I catch are on the trailing soft tackle.
Oh, that's cool. So so you're fishing. So you might be fishing a dry fly. There might be a little hatch coming off, but you definitely have a dry and the soft tackle. Are you mixing it up with other types of sinking it down or swinging it, stuff like that?
So, like I said, my go-to nymph pattern is a purple pheasant tail soft tackle nymph. With a tungsten bead. So I'll fish that, and then I'll trail just an unweighted soft tackle about 2 feet behind that, because that one's going to sit at a higher depth. Yeah. So I'm fishing 2 different levels of the water. So, but most people who fish soft tackles know that the most deadly part's on the swing. You're going to get most of your strikes and takes is that you're going on that upswing from the end of your swing.
Yeah, right. That's it. Okay, and you're hitting the desert spring creek, so you're going to be fishing some kind of same thing that you're talking, kind of remote, smaller type streams, or what's that look like?
Yeah, so I'm going to be fishing in this stream, and it's got small little brook trout and some rainbows. There's some lower stretches that have some bigger rainbows in it, but I'm going to go fish my 2-weight, and I'm just going to have a ball with some small stream fish taking aggressive hits on dry flies and soft tackles on the top water.
With over 40 years of experience in coffee, the Anglers Coffee team roasts a full range of coffee with one goal in mind: delivering excellent coffee to every single angler. And the coffee you get is roasted and shipped within 48 hours to assure freshness. All sorts of good stuff going here. I can definitely attest to the quality of this and the taste. If you get the Artist Series, right now $1 goes to Casting for Recovery. Every sale, $1 to Casting for Recovery. Anglers has a blend for every taste, a dry dropper on the go, roast sampler, and Joe, he's serving your needs. You got to check it out, especially the custom package. Get your special blend of coffee, special blend of art right on the package. This thing is good to go. Head over to wetflyswing.com/anglers. Check out a good bag of greatness right now. That's Anglers, Anglers. Okay, back to the show. Nice. Well, let's see. I guess we've dug into a little bit here. It feels like, on a setup, I mean, fiberglass, obviously there's a lot to know there. Where would you send somebody? If somebody wants to learn more about fiberglass rods, what's going on, and just kind of, what would you recommend there?
I definitely encourage them to reach out to me and ask any questions, they might have or anything like that. But the Fiberglass Manifesto is a blog, and he's a great resource on all things fiberglass. He's going to have a lot more experience with a lot different models than what I do, but I can kind of help answer any questions. Definitely would like to touch base with people if they have any questions. But Fiberglass Manifesto, Cameron's really good guy and very, very knowledgeable. So I'm actually friends with the guy that started that with him. He lives here in Idaho Falls with me. You can see him on our lunar glass on our YouTube. He did a video talking about our lunar glass. So, and his name's Mike.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And we had Cameron on. I'll put a link in the show notes from that podcast. I can't remember the number, but yeah, that was a good one. We dug into it there. That was a while ago. That's, again, it takes some time. It'd be nice to get more of these episodes out, but so maybe we'll have to talk more with you about it as you produce more stuff. I like the Nirvana. The Nirvana is touching on a little bit of the past, Kurt Cobain. Is that kind of part of that, or what? Tell the Nirvana how that name came to be.
So it's kind of funny, Kurt Cobain's kind of my time frame,
Yeah.
The rock band Nirvana. But for me, it also, I wanted to resonate with people with this brand. The Nirvana brand is kind of our mid-level price brand. It's not that entry level, little bit better hardware and, just nicer feel to the rod. But I wanted to connect to people, and I felt like a lot of people go fly fishing to really escape everyday life, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
So you're really going, if you're into Hinduism, Nirvana is really finding that state of enlightenment. And so that's where that brand is about. It's about finding a state of enlightenment. Our graphite rods are called the moksha, which is a enlightened state within Hinduism. Our new fiberglass rods that were coming out are called the Phoenix glass. If into that kind of stuff, the phoenix is the bird. It's a bird that rises from its own ashes, so kind of reincarnates itself. So it kind of falls in line with the state of nirvana. You become enlightened and you reincarnate.
There you go. Now, this sounds like you know a little bit about this whole this field. Are you doing some like meditation and stuff like that? Is that a big part of your daily routine?
So, born and raised LDS, Latter-day Saint. Still a member of the church. I just practice it a little bit different than your average everyday Mormon. Meditation is my form of prayer. I meditate at least once every day, but I find myself meditating a lot. I've studied
Amazing.
kind of studied that Hinduism and meditation and the ancient medicines, you'd say. I get energy balances from an energy worker every week to balance out my chakras and my energy. So, that means a lot to me. The Nirvana brand is something I connect to very deeply.
That's cool. Yeah, you're totally into it. That's amazing. And I think, yeah, meditating, I think everybody should try it and do it if they can, because yeah, I mean, it's all about kind of, I don't know what you're saying it better than I can, but it just, I've been trying to do a little bit of it as well. And it's hard to get that daily routine. What's been your secret to make it like a daily routine, which you kind of have to do, right?
Well, my favorite time to meditate is I bought a rowing machine and I get on my rowing machine. I actually black my eyes out so that I can
Oh,
stay
wow.
present. And I turn on some meditation music and I just meditate while I'm rowing. Physically doing something while you're meditating, it works really good for me anyways. but it's important to stay present. And so you want to block everything out when you're meditating. You want to be present within that very moment.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, and that's a good tip, because I've always thought, like, well, you sit there with your legs crossed and you try to, you'll stay focused and straight up. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it. You don't have to be doing that. You can be actually doing something that's still, as long as you get in that state of blocking everything out and focusing on the present moment.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Good. Well, this is, I hope this inspires maybe a few people to try it out. I know it's going to hopefully kickstart me back into it as we're thinking about it here. But that's what's cool about it, because, yeah.
Me and my son, he works with me, and every day I drive him, and he gets tired of it. I'm like, are you meditating? Are you meditating? No. I'm like, well, maybe you should start.
There you go. See, you got your kids into it. I mean, they're going to, I don't see, there can't be a bad any downside of meditating, right? It just seems like it's a way to focus and relax and let some stuff go, right? It seems like it's all good.
Yeah. Meditating's probably one of the healthiest things you can do for your emotional health, to be honest. It's a way to inner reflect. It's a way to find compassion and peace for yourself. It's a way to release all those negative emotions and energies that we all come around on a daily basis. So it's a way to release it and not harbor it within our bodies.
Yeah, that's it. Nice. Well, we'll leave that there, and if they have questions for you about meditation, we'll send people your way if they want to pick your brain on that. Let's wrap this up here, Brandon, as we take it out of here. A lot of times I kind of like to talk about, resources and things like that, and, where people could take it further. But we've talked a little bit about Furled Leaders. We've covered that. We've got a little bit on fiberglass. What about, soft hackles? I have a resource I know I'm thinking of, but who is your soft hackle go-to guru or place?
Really, he's not very known. He's actually one of my best friends. His name's Doug Kinney. He's a flight nurse here in Idaho Falls, and he's the one that I turn to when it comes to soft hackles. He's the one that taught me.
Kinney, and I think it seems like I've heard that name. Maybe that's just a common name. Is he? So he's not really necessarily in the industry doing anything, but that's his passion.
He's like a brother. He goes to all the shows with us. He can.
Nice.
He's a big part of what we do in our business. So.
Oh, there you go. So he is a big part. Good. And I was going to note, we did a episode with Stephen Bird with the Soft Hackle Journal, and this is quite a while back, but he's got some stuff. I think he's up a little bit north. He's up in Washington, so kind of northwest of you. So yeah, there's a few. And again, the soft hackle thing, and even back to like the Davy Watton, wet fly nymphs. It's definitely an old school. It sounds like what you do, like you said with your grandpa, you attribute a lot to him, and also you love the throwing back to an older way, right? Even, is Tenkara an older way, or is that something? What would you say about that? Would that kind of be also kind of a throwback?
Tenkara is actually really how fly fishing started before we had reels. They were using, flies and casting them with long rods and line. So, it's got a deep-rooted history in what we do today as well. And a lot of, you've got Japan, you've got Europe, there's all kinds of different places that really have a variation to Tenkara. Tenkara is really the Japanese way that they did it, but there's ways all across Europe. I think Valencia is from like Italy, and it's a different technique, but same concept with the long rod and line to the fly. So it's got a lot of history too.
Oh, wow. Valencia?
Valencia, I think, is what it's called. It's been a while since I've looked up that one, but I believe that's what it is. There's a lot of different forms to Tenkara. Tenkara is just the one that was branded by Daniel when he brought it to America.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, wow. That's how it happened. How it happened. Literally. So this literally could be called, it's called Tenkara, but it could be called, or it is called other things in different parts of the world or different parts of history.
Yeah, it has been. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, from you, it really sounds like I'm not sure if you planned this, but Moonlit is really this, like I said, the traditional stuff. Was that kind of your vision getting out, or has that kind of grown as you've gone? You've really grown into that?
That's just who I am, and my business reflects me. I don't manufacture a rod that I will not love to fish. I do not manufacture any kind of gear that I don't believe in. It's just about staying true to who I am and being authentic to me. And I want it to reflect in my business because I want people to connect with me through my business.
Right. Right. And talk just briefly before we get out of here. I was interested, the Leland, we had an episode a while back where Leland came up because I think it was,
you interviewed James with Red Truck.
Yeah, Red Truck, exactly. Yeah, and it was an interesting story. He talked, and James is awesome, and I really loved hearing. But Leland was an interesting story because it was like a gigantic. I wasn't even really around then necessarily, but it was a big brand online back in the time, and it kind of had a change up. So talk about that. How did this Leland thing come to be for you?
So I know the guy who sold us Leland. He lives here in Idaho, and James was working for him. And he also is associated with Loop and is a distributor for Loop here in the North Americas. And so they've always been a huge supporter of me and my business. And then he was looking to sell Leland. And I walked in the shop one day and was talking to him. And he's like, well, I've got this opportunity for you. And so it just felt right. And so we jumped on it.
And what is because I remember when I was at the show, I looked, they had a couple of like Click and Paul, you had some reels up there, stuff. What is Leland's, product line? How is that different from, say, what you had or what you have at Moonlit?
So Leland was focused on your graphite rods. And then the classic, they're like Hardy style Click Paul reels. So just that real historic type reel. And they've got a couple different styles in that, with a modern day edge to them. The rods are absolutely beautiful. That's actually where we were able to get in to Korea with manufacturing and do that kind of stuff. So it was an exciting adventure to get us started going where we're going.
That's it. Cool. Right on. Well, I feel good about this. I feel like I need, like all these things, I always come out of these thinking, well, okay, I got some more products I need to purchase because a fiberglass rod is kind of, I need to add to the quiver. The soft hackles, I've got that covered, but the Furled leaders, I definitely need to dig into more. So give us a heads up before we get out here in the next, say, 9 months or a year or so. What's coming up for you for Moonlit or just anything personally or through your business?
We're just going to continue to push ourselves to continue bringing out great gear. Our motto is creating products that every angler can enjoy fishing. Not every angler can enjoy $1,000 rod because they can't fish it, because they can't afford it. We want every angler to feel like they're fishing $1,000 rod or using, the best gear on the market. So that's where we're pushing. That's what our goal is.
That's it. So you guys don't have a $1,000 rod in your lineup?
No, the Leland, the most expensive rod is like $750. We believe that there's a place for that, and if you have that money, and you enjoy it, we think it's great that you spend it and use it, but we want everybody to have that experience.
Yeah, that's right. And and I saw one of the reels. Yeah, like you said, the Click and Paul, those aren't cheap either, but those are nice, definitely nice to have. So, okay, Brandon, well, I'll leave it there for now. And if anybody has questions, we'll send them out to you at moonlitflyfishing.com. And just want to thank you for coming on and shedding some light on the Furled leaders and a little bit more on the fiberglass. And we'll hopefully connect some people, keep connected to you. And as you move forward, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it, Dave. It was a pleasure.
So there you go. If you want to find all the show notes, all the links, and everything else we covered today, head over to wetflyswing.com/308. 308 will get you the goodness. Want to give a quick listener shout out spotlight. Randy Buren. Randy Buren, thanks for the support of the podcast over the years. I recently had a cool chat with Randy on the phone. We just got caught up on things, and I always love when I get a chance to connect with folks out there that are listening. So if you want to connect with me, send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com, and would love to hear how we're doing, maybe how we could serve you better, and maybe just to chat. You can subscribe to this podcast easily to get updated when the next episode goes live. wetflyswing.com/subscribe, and you'll get updated when the next episode drops. And there is another one that's going to be dropping quickly. I think it's dropping in 2 days from right now, and it is going to be a unique episode. You got to check the next one out. I think it's something we haven't fully dug into yet, so you're going to love it. I'm going to get out of here. I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at, and I appreciate your support on this show. I appreciate you and hope to connect with you on the water or online.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.